Hey, what's up, people? How's it going there? I hope everyone had a fun and safe Halloween. It's November 1st. It's 5:30 in the morning right now. I'm going to answer a couple of questions. One of them was, what was my favorite form of graffiti? Like, what did I enjoy doing the most? And I would have to say tagging. I love doing my tags. That was everything for me. Like 99% of the stuff I've done was tags, graffiti tags. I used to like doing the tags on the insides of the subways with the markers, spray paint. And in the streets, definitely just doing tags. I was never big on fill-ins. I've said this many times in my past videos. I would assume that if someone knew me or knew about my career, they would know it was tags, definitely 100%. And it was just, it's easy, fast, efficient. It's the name out there. If you're thinking about like the rawest form of graffiti. And I used to like it also because I could write up high. I had beef with everyone. Like everyone and their mother was crossing me. So it was easy to avoid that just by really reaching up as high as I can. And I'd put my belly, my back, right up against the gate, stand on my tippy toes, do a tag. The thing wanted to be like almost 8 feet tall. Think about it, like 6'4", and you extend the arm, 6'4", 5, right? And 8. It's like 8 feet up. And if I reach up like this, like I'd actually put my body to the wall, like that, all the way up. And I'd be able to catch tags. When I was doing that, there's only like 2 people that could really fuck with my shit. That would be like Chino, because he's tall, he's taller than me, and TK. Those guys were taller than me. Although TK really didn't pick off a lot of that stuff like that. He didn't run around cross my tags out. But if he saw like a Blockbuster or a fill-in I did or something, he crossed it out. Like I've showed pictures of. Other than that, yeah, it was easy peasy for me. People would have to walk around with a milk crate or something to fuck with me. I gotta go gate after gate after gate, just reach it up. I remember Just used to get mad at me. Just, well, not mad at me, but like, damn, actually everyone. RE, because RE would do his tags tall and scrunched, where me, it's short but long. So it kind of worked. I'd reach up real high and do my shit, and he would just walk right up and go boom. So it worked very well. Same with Just. RE, D3, same problem. Lace was kind of tall. Uh, but yeah, that was always a good benefit. That would really cut out like almost like 75% of my beef. Like I remember Kez 5, he was saying that. Like JA hopped up to try and cross me out. And it's like he literally underlined me. Like, say here's the RD. I mean, this happened a lot, but I remember actually having this conversation with Kez 5. It's like, say here's the RD, right? It's like JA went like this to cross it out. So he would literally get it right here. And that was a lot. Bet TFV. When I used to have beef with Bet TFV, I used to be laughing. I remember Varick Street, right around the corner from SOBs. It's busy down there. And there was a tag like that. And Bet, he walked up, he tried to cross out, but it was so high up, he actually just underlined my RD. That happened so many times, so many different people. And yeah, that was a little trick of mine to have my shit last longer. And it's before all these fancy ladders and shit. I knew people that would carry around milk crates, and there's also times me, myself, I'd jump on top of a dumpster, like one of those garbage bins outside a restaurant or something like that. You hop up on that, and then I'd get up. So it's like off the ground from the dumpster, then as high as I could reach. So yeah, I used to like doing tags up high. White spray paint. Next would be Blockbusters. That was pretty much my whole career. My whole graffiti career was either huge ass blockbusters or tags. Never known to do fill-ins. Not on the streets anyway. I had a good year and a half, 2 year run doing fill-ins on the subways, but I wasn't out there like that, like just thinking about fill-ins because I don't know. Like, look at this. This is the fucking right here. That's the fill-in God. Like that right there is like the epiphany of a throw up and like a graffiti artist that would do fill-ins. That right behind me on that street sign, the NE by Min. I mean, it don't get better than that. But on the subways, you do the floaters like he used to do, just exactly like that. Spot after spot after spot. And I don't know. I've done it. Like I said, there's pictures of my shit out there. With OA, Nash. I went, like I've said, for like a year and a half, 2 years straight. I concentrated on fill-ins, and I would go like maybe 3 times a week. And I was going to places like Grant, shit like that, where it's like huge layups where you can catch a lot of fucking trains, man. You can get a good 50, 60 cars in some of these places, 100 cars if you were, but I would never bring enough spray paint to get 100 cars. That'd be ridiculous for me. And I wouldn't, like the misting them in, and plus having all that beef with everyone, it was quite a task, I'd have to say. And I didn't like fill-ins. Like, it's just, I'd rather just take all the paint and just do a whole car, top to bottom or something. But I was hanging out with dudes that were just doing fill-ins. I talk about this a lot. Actually, I was just talking to my old bombing partner, Ripe. That's when I was doing fill-ins. Like I've said before on here, I was always just into doing tags on the insides. And I hung out with those guys, and I was doing tags on the insides. These are pretty much Queens guys, Astoria Queens. When I started hanging out with those guys, I would be doing the insides while they would be doing fill-ins on the outsides. And we get raided, I'd still be on the inside writing, and the cops would be running around. Shit, I'd be the last to know. I mean, I never had no problems, not then at that point in my life. I would just get down low. And sometimes I would just sit there and be like, you fucking idiots. And then I'd just wait until everything cleared out. I'd come pop my head out. And I'd just go home or something. But I started doing fill-ins with them because of that reason. Like, especially, I remember the Astoria layup having problems. Everyone ran away, and they kind of blow it. It's, you just look up from the station, and you can see people riding on the subway. They're literally sitting there doing fill-in. Me, I'm on the inside of the train, so no one could ever see me. I mean, trains would go by. Sometimes the cops would be in that passing train, and they would slow the train down. You see the cop like this looking. The head would be going like this and shit, trying to see if he could see anyone in there. But every time the train would come, say, here's the train, it's coming this way, right? You're here, you get down on this side of the car, or that side. Like the furthest, you get right under the window, and you just lay in the seat. Like if the train's going by right here, you get down right there, But you're inside the car. If you sit on the other seat, they could see you just by looking in, even though it's dark in there and stuff. These cops, they have a trained eye for stuff like that. They know what to look for, And that's mainly outdoors. That's the only time you have to worry about that is outdoor layups, the elevated tracks. In the middle tracks, they'd park the trains, and you would have to worry about that. But in the layup, it's like a tunnel. It's dark and a lot of beams and shit like that. And the train's like right at your level and shit. It's just, you didn't really have to worry about that in the layups. You could just continue writing. If you're doing insides, that is. Of course, the outsides, anywhere you put it, the train's coming, you got to get under the train, hide. Get under the parked train that you're writing on, hide, let your train go by, come back out, and finish your shit. That was pretty much the way it would work. But, tags, definitely. Like I was saying, I was talking to Ripe in the middle of the week. And, he's telling me, he'd like to come on my show and stuff. So trying to arrange that. That'd be pretty cool. We were talking about my mother. He's like, oh, man, I don't... I've spoken to him maybe wow, since 1987, lost touch with him for like 20, 30 years. Yeah. The first time I've seen him since my son was born, because I remember before my son was born, when he was actually in his mother's belly, like Katie, his mother, was pregnant, is like the last time I saw Ripe. And then when I went down to Jamaica, I haven't seen him until Sears' birthday party, I believe. No, I might have bumped into him one more time. At one point, he was actually living and I was renting him an apartment in a house I owned in Astoria, Queens. But that was more his grandmother that was living there. But, still it was through him. So I had contact with him at that point. But that's before I went down to Jamaica. So I would say by the time I went down to Jamaica, the West Indies, until maybe last year or the year before, I saw him at Sears' birthday party. Sear was having a birthday party out in Queens. And I went and I bumped into a bunch of old people I haven't seen in a long time. A lot of these old Astoria cats, That was pretty cool. I had fun. I actually have the footage of him doing a Ripe, like a RP bubble letter in my black book. I have it. I put it on my Patreon. So if you're interested in that, check out my Patreon. Yeah, he's talking about coming on here. We're talking about my mom. He's like, yo, your mom was a trip. I was like, yeah, but save it. For the, when you come on here live. Because, yeah, I've hung out with him a long, long time. I've known him. He known my family. Like I said, I was renting an apartment out in a house that I owned out in Queens to a family member of his. So, yeah, we go pretty far back, and that'll be pretty cool. Yeah, he could tell you. And even like when we got raided up at the Sixes, like he could, I'm always saying, yeah, up in the Sixes. Like the only times I've ever been caught writing were like in 1987 with Ripe. And I used to say Nash and Sayer and Smalls, but no, Nash is like, nah, man. I'm like, how do you not remember that shit? We were in the Bronx house and, waiting to go to the judge and shit. Like, we went through the whole system and everything. How the fuck you not remember that? It was like 2-3 days of our life. God. Nash is like, yeah, man, I remember that. I wasn't there. I remember this, that. Well, why am I right? It was like, yeah, no, he wasn't there. And I was like, shit, I thought I was losing my mind. Like, because normally if I'm with Ripe, I would be with Nash. Or I'd go on missions with them separately, but Ripe and me would go to Astoria layup a lot. I brought him up to the Sixes, and that was the incident we're talking about. I think I might have brought him up there twice to the Sixes. Yeah. I think the time that we actually got raided, we weren't doing fill-ins. He was doing an Under the Windows Ripe piece on the Sixes, like Zariga, Castle Hill, Middletown Road, where they would lay up the trains. Yeah, he was doing a Ripe under the windows, like a whole car under the windows, end to end, RIPA. And I was on the next car with Sayer or Smalls, I believe. So it was like an RD Sayer or an RD Smalls or RD Sayer Smalls taking up the whole bond. And we got raided and caught. Like, he got away. And, yeah, I'll talk about it when he comes on one day. But, yeah, that picture is actually on that PM Graffitiosity page. That guy. He has the picture of the RD unfinished, but he has a picture of it in a scrapyard. And that was never done in that scrapyard. That was done. I figured it out after talking to like Nash and Ripe and shit like that. That picture of that RD wasn't. It was a 6 train that was running. It didn't have an outline on it because I got caught. I got arrested for that. I had to go through, through the Bronx and shit like that, the whole court system and stuff. Yeah, so that was like 1987 or something. And before that, I also got caught at the Sixes in like 83 or 84. Yeah, with Lace and JJ. So I got caught twice in the Sixes, and I never got caught until 2017. Yeah, so I had a good run there. 2017, since 1987, all the way up to 2017, they got me. And, well, yeah, we'll save a bunch of that shit for Ripe, when he comes on. He said he wants to come by with PK. I told him we could do it right on Instagram if he wants, but it'll be interesting. I did a lot of graffiti him. Did a lot of crime, too, man. Stole a lot of shit. Like those dudes in Astoria, man, we used to steal a lot of shit together. Break into a lot of cars, steal a lot of car radios, which reminds me, I put a short on my YouTube here. You could see it. It's like all these migrant bikes, like electric bikes parked, like right up from the East Village, I guess, like First Avenue, maybe 9th Street, maybe 11th Street, something like that. Well, Venario's is over there, which is the Italian joint. There's a couple of Italian places right there, and I actually mentioned it. I was like, yeah, that shit used to be like a mafia joint. There's a couple of places over there. There's about 3 or 4 of them, all like 2 of them right next to each other on that block there, mob places, like mafia establishments. There's 2 of them right there, and there's another one that's closed down now that's around the corner from there, anyway, we used to sell them car radios. Not the guys from Queens, but like Frankie Gator, like Manhattan dudes that were criminals. Frankie Gator would go in there with me, and John, JJ357, a couple other guys. This other dude from the West Side, Hell's Kitchen, we used to steal a lot of shit with, too. I think he's the one that actually showed us that place as a fence to sell car radios. And then they bought other things, too. I remember bringing them stolen motorcycles, asking if they were interested. Like, get that shit out of here, man. Like, they didn't want motorcycles. But, yeah, I forget. We steal a lot of motorcycles back in the day. I don't even remember. But I do remember bringing them out like a big old Ninja or some shit like that, like 87, 88. We'll get into that. Anyway, I was videoing all these migrants with their electric bikes. It was early in the morning, so they're not even there. It's just a park. Like, you can go to my short. I could probably tag it in this description. I'll try to do that. So check the description of this video and you can click on it. But it's like, that wasn't even that bad that day, but it's almost, at times, it could be like 75% of the street, both sides of the street, just bikes, electric bikes, just all like a whole block of parking spaces. Yeah, it's like I've seen that shit go down. No lie, on an average, it's like one side of the street, it'll be like a quarter of the block. The other side of the street will be like 50% of the fucking block. Like, we're talking about parking spaces, maybe 15, 20 parking spaces going this way. And on the other side, it'll be like 6 or 7 parking. Well, no, on the other side, there's a fire hydrant there. So that would minus maybe 2 or 3 parking spaces. But still, imagine a fire. And the fire department has to come there. It's got like 90, maybe 100, 200 bikes just all locked together. Like, how is the fire department going to get water out the fire hydrant? I mean, just thinking about that. But, I was like, wow, look at all these migrant bikes. And so this is what I said in the video. This shit's starting to look like the UK. And then I'm actually on First Avenue, I believe it. And I'm aiming the camera down. And even on the avenue, like the bus lanes and shit, like that's all bike. I'm like, wow, this shit's getting like the UK out there. A couple of snippy comments I got on there. And one of them is, isn't it funny how in the 1800s the Irish and the Italians did the same thing? And I like, no. First off, the 1800s to early 19th century, shit like that, there was not really any immigration laws. I mean, my family, my mother is one of those migrants that you'd be talking about. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not in the 1800s, of course, but by the 1920s, even the 1930s and shit like that, the only thing that you had to do is be a positive on society. Like, there was no immigration rules or laws like as they are today. It was pretty much you would have to have a ticket to get there. And I remember while I worked in a tuberculosis laboratory, So you would have to be screened for tuberculosis. Isn't that even in The Godfather? Like when they come to Ellis Island, they keep Don Corleone in the TB ward, you know? They keep him in the TB ward because he got TB. I'm pretty sure that was The Godfather. I might be wrong. You know that movie, but yeah, that was true. Like people would come in through Ellis Island, and what America would do is pretty much just see if you're sick, if you got any diseases that you could spread to other people, like the plague or some shit like that, or COVID. But I mean, of course, not COVID back then, but shit like that, you know, Spanish flu, you know. Yeah, that would be a good example. Spanish flu, influenza. What we'll do is see if a disease, make sure communicable diseases, and you come here and you're like a positive. And then they're like, yeah, this, that. And also, they're like, oh, with the migrants coming in here back then. Also, they weren't a burden to the taxpayer. Like, taxpayers weren't paying them. There was no EBT. There was no welfare. Yeah, there was no welfare. Welfare, that shit didn't kick into like the 19. What was that shit? What was his name? Ferraro? 1960s. 19. I want to say 64. I mean, I was born in 1968, but I believe 1964. Like, yeah, I could be off with that. And as far as it goes, the 60s, I would say, by the 1960s, late 60s, mid 60s, is when it really started kicking off like that. And as far as it goes with immigration laws, I think what, after World War II? No, with Germany. There's a lot of, well, I live in Germantown, technically, Yorkville. So 1920s, the Depression, maybe around the times of the Depressions, 1930s, 20s. I don't know. Let me check. What year did America start following immigration laws or put laws in effect? The United States federal immigration laws in 1977, 18, all right, early 81, 1924. Yeah. All right, the Immigration Act of 1924 established a national origins quota system which several limited immigrations from South and Eastern Europe and banned immigrants from most of Asia. So yeah, 1924. I thought it was early. In 1917, actually, Immigration Act introduced literacy tests that expanded the list of excluded immigrants, marking a period of increasing restriction. By 1965, the Immigration National Act of 1965 replaced the national origins quota system with the base of family reunification and skilled labor drastically charged to sources that contain immigration. Yeah, so like 1920, it says 1917, they started looking at the ideas. And by like 1922, it was like shit that was written in books. Probably by 23, 24, it was strictly followed. What was the other thing I was talking about? What was welfare, right? When was welfare started? What'd I say? The 60s. I said 60s. I went around 64, right? When was welfare created for the USA? All right, the modern welfare system was created. Wow, yeah. In 1935, it was the passage. All right, Franklin D. Roosevelt. All right, this is the way it went. In 1935, Social Security Act was passed by Franklin D. Roosevelt. This act established a framework for public welfare programs. All right, now, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Lyndon B. Johnson expanded the welfare state significantly with the No War Poverty, which include new programs like food stamps and funding. So, yeah, by 1964 is when it was actually like food stamps and shit like that came out. But the idea was around a Social Security Act. That would be like, I guess, SSD, SSI. You know, like if you get disabled or something like that, you get hurt on the job. Yeah, that's probably the beginning of workman's comp. But anyway, it's not the 1800s and shit like that. So, yeah, dude, you're wrong, man. It was a different world. Like, the people would come in here through Ellis Island. Like, your average American didn't have to pay for these people's existence. You know, it's like, yeah, it's crazy. They weren't taking up all these parking spaces and stuff. Like, I'm looking at these charts that they're coming out now since the government is frozen, you know. And so they're having time to look at this, and it's like what, 48% of the migrants are fucking on public assistance, and it's like they last I heard, like they were told, oh no, it's a conspiracy theory that these people are like people are like, oh what, like I remember hearing about these cards that Eric Adams was giving out because the people didn't like the food they were being served in these 5-star hotels. They didn't like the food that was being given to them, so Eric Adams started giving them EBT cards, and they could get whatever they want, which would satisfy their palate, you know, their taste. And people are like, oh, but where's that coming from? And, oh, conspiracy theories and this and that. And, yeah, it's bigger than shit. It winds up being taxpayers' money. Like, one of the rules back then, talking about the Irish and the Italians, is you couldn't be a burden on society. But, I mean, I've seen the movie Gangs of New York, and I've read the book, The White Rabbits and shit like that. So I'm very familiar with how it was. Like, there were the slums downtown, you know, the 5 Points, shit like that. Little Italy, yeah, those places were like slums, like rats all over and shit like that, disease and shit like that. So, yeah, it was pretty fucked up living down there, but it's kind of like you were on your own, you know, you weren't a burden to someone else that's trying to survive in this world. You know, it's like, I don't know. I don't like my money going there like that. Shit, I have my own son, man. Believe me, I raised my son by myself with no public assistance. Hell, hardly like I was explaining just recently, my mother, I would drop him off at my mother's house. I'd take the subway in from Queens when I was living out there. I'd give the kid to my brother on the N&ER train station, Bloomingdale's. I'd hand my son to my brother over the turnstile. I wouldn't even get out the subway station. I'd say, here, kiss my kid on the forehead. I'd hand it to my brother. My brother would go home to my mother's house there on 62nd Street. And when I get out of work, I'd come by the house, or I'd meet him at the subway again. And I'd come back up, and my brother would hand me the kid again. I'd get on the subway, and I'd go out to Queens, where I was living at that point. And, yeah, that went on until my mother died. And then I actually moved into that apartment after my mother died. And then shortly after that, my brother was a babysitter, and he got locked up for murdering someone, allegedly murdering someone in that apartment. So, yeah, that shit got crazy. You know, it was a crime scene. You know, the people in the school and everything were like, oh, like, what the fuck? It was all over the news and shit. So, yeah, that was some devastating shit. But it ain't easy, man. Like, one fucking thing I've learned, it's like, it's not even something I learned. It's just, what is reality? Like, it's streets and like graffiti. And now I'm starting to see, like, I was just talking to Skid. It was my friend Skid. And like how the graffiti world now, it's like over here, like it's got nothing to do with street life. It's got nothing to do with the street culture, so to say. It's like something I wish not to be involved with myself. Like graffiti now is just so gay, man. But streets. That's what I was talking about. And the number one thing you don't do, it's like rule, like number uno, right behind don't snitch and don't tell on people, is you don't fucking beg. Like, you don't fucking beg. Like, that's the worst. And I remember before the whole welfare system actually got to the level it's at, where they would give you chunks of cheese like this big. It would be like a loaf of bread, but it would be American cheese. And they would also give you a loaf of bread. And they'd give you a big can, like a paint bucket, like something like this. And it'd be filled with peanut butter. It'd have a white label on it, and in black ink, it would say peanut butter. Now, people would get this stuff, and they would get it in a brown paper bag, and they were ashamed to go. My mother never took a penny. My mother never even took a penny off of my father after she got divorced from my father. She worked and never took a penny. I mean, my father always gave us money anyway. You know, he'd give us money behind our back when he'd come in and see us and stuff like that. You know, it's not like there was any type of despite. She just refused anything like that. She's like, get the fuck out of here. I'm good, you know? And it's just a different upbringing. It would be, like I said, me and my family was never on welfare. I believe my brother was collecting Medicaid when he was in his methadone program, struggling with a heroin addiction. But yeah, it was always like instilled in our heads. It's even in my neighborhood, like if someone was collecting these big brown paper bags with the cheese, the welfare cheese, and the big buckets of peanut butter and the loaves of bread and shit, they would get that stuff, and it was almost shameful. Like, they would go to places that's further from their neighborhood so people wouldn't see them online and shit like that. And it was just, that's what welfare was. It wasn't like, we're going to give you money. Like, you know, it wasn't even food stamps, I believe, at that point. It was like you would go to a location and they would hand you a bag of like powdered potatoes, where you add the milk and the water and you mix it up and it turns into potatoes, like mashed potatoes. Yeah, different shit like that. But yeah, now it's like you got someone's foot on your fucking throat. Like, how does like a whole generation go down that road and then brag about it, like, and then bitch about it on top of that? It's like you brag about getting money because you can't take care of yourself. Like, that is a fucking insult to your average human being. You'd be insulted to say, I am unable to fend for myself. I am not capable of taking care of myself. I need the government to take care of me. That in itself is a no-no. Like, you don't fucking beg. You don't beg. And it's just street culture. You never fucking beg, man. There's a couple of things you don't do, and begging is one of them. Don't fucking beg. You don't complain. You don't bitch. Like, I mean, that's in a further circle. Like, if you're actually scheming on breaking into something, you know, you don't want to break into something like drugstores at certain points in my life, or I've broken into toy stores. I've broken into so many. Serendipity, for Christ's sake. Andy Warhol, Serendipity, 61st Street. Broke into there. I stole the fucking taxidermy fucking brown bear out the fucking place. Yeah, like a 5 or 6 foot stuffed bear, like a real bear. Stole that shit. Someone wanted it. I got it for them. I got good money for it. So you don't want to be out there robbing and stealing with someone that's bitching and complaining all the time. Oh, man, this ain't wrong. Come on. Why I got to go over there? How come there's that? Like, yeah, that's something you want to stay away from, because that would wind up being a problem when or if the police get involved. So, and also, like, yeah, one of the biggest things, like complaining and bitching and fucking like begging. That's just like, it's a no-no. It's like, I am weak. It's like, that's what goes off in the streets. Like, when you're out there living a criminal life, like growing up in New York City. Yeah, that's like, yeah, you don't want to fuck with someone like that. That's like hanging out with a homosexual or something. Yeah, and it's just weakness. It's like, if you honestly have to like fill out forms and sit there and explain that you're unable to take care of yourself, then how is that like, how are you walking this earth as a man? I mean, I know a lot of women and children, and the rate of men not being in a household with raising these children, it falls into play also. There's a whole couple of generations of people where it was actually more beneficial to them financially if they did not have a man as the head of the household. So I mean, my mother and father, they just didn't get along. I mean, my mother drank a lot. My father was a military man. He was in Vietnam War. So there was issues there. They weren't able to live together, especially when you put two children into the picture. So they came to the decision to have a divorce. They went their way. And it's a struggle. It was a struggle for me raising my son. But you don't look at it as a struggle, and you don't look at it as something that sucks. You look back at them times, and they're like the most beautiful and the most cherished moments. Like when times are hard, and you're like sitting there, and it's like those. Like one day, yeah, I get a kick out of that too. Me living on the Upper East Side, I'd like to do a walkthrough of my mansion. I'm going to do that one day, definitely on my Patreon. But I'm going to show you. You guys, how I'm living. This shit's like a little sardine can, man. For real. But, and it's rent stabilized. So I don't care also if you want to go back into the whole mayoral situation, which a lot of you guys are asking me. And I'm for Curtis Lewa. Like I've said before, I've been aware of that man since I was a teenager, like my whole life. I've been seeing him on the news. I've been bumping into guardian angels, not necessarily him per se, but guardian angels on the subways. I was just saying a couple episodes ago, maybe my last episode, like the 1 train, the 4 train, you would always see guardian angels on there. And they would like hold the door for old ladies and shit. And these people were street kids too. They were like from the streets, and they were kids. And they wanted to better their neighborhood, and they wanted to better society for themselves. They think what most of these people would do is they put themselves in the situation and say, that could be my mother. That could be my mother that dude just threw in front of a train, or that could be my sister, So it's like they chip in to help society. That's the way I saw it. And as I was explaining in one last video, I believe, I don't want to keep going over it, but my brother used to work down there in the porno theaters on 42nd Street. And he actually saw that guy, Curtis Lewa, bleeding like a stuck pig. Him and some Spanish guardian angel were fighting off like 20 other people. And he was stabbed and shit like that. They dragged him into the porno theater, locked the door, and called the cops and ambulances and shit. They took the dude away in an ambulance. He's like a fucking superhero around these parts. I mean, for people that are looking for safety in society, I mean, of course, if you're a criminal, he's kind of like the opposite, like, fuck him. You know what I mean? But, if you're actually just your average Joe, like, you would appreciate that shit. And I do know that some of those people, they've done some fucked up shit too. Some of them guardian angels, I remember them getting caught doing some devious shit with women and stuff like that on subways. But, I mean, there's bad apples in every batch, right? You look at the police or whatever agency or any human nature. You got people, that just are like that. I mean, some people are just raised differently like that. You can see people that are just extremely got real greedy behavior. It's like the way they're wired, like they had too many siblings to fight over food or something like that. And you also have people that are like sexual deviants and shit. So, whatever. It's just the makeup of humanity. What else was there? Right. So, yeah, I talked about that video I put on, right? All of the bikes, the e-bikes. And I pretty much said what I could about that. Like, immigration really wasn't a thing. The only thing was you couldn't be a burden on society. But then again, we all saw that movie, Gangs in New York and stuff, where people were a burden on society. People running around doing nothing, but that's crazy, man. These people, it was just no diseases. You can't be coming up in here causing a plague or something. And tuberculosis, I remember, was a big one. And the only reason I know about tuberculosis, I'm pretty sure the movie The Godfather, right? When he comes into this country, there's a little kid, Vito Corleone, I think. I don't know. I don't know. It's in one of the Godfathers. It might not even be The Godfather. Maybe it's some other shit with like Meyer-Lansky movie or something I saw once upon a time or something. But I remember that when they're going to Ellis Island and one of them, you got Scarface, right? The Tony Montana. But yeah, that's the '80s, and that's not Ellis Island, right? It was like how'd you get the scars on your face and shit? Yeah. That was funny. There's nothing you could do to me Fidel Castro hasn't already done, right? Yeah. Fucking Carlito. No, not Carlito. Tony Montana. I'm thinking of Carlito's way, right? Yeah. Yeah, all right. I'm running out of shit to talk about, man. Take care. Wait. Yeah. Peace.